Hi, and welcome to Seed Speaks. My name is Sonja Begemann. I'm the editorial director at Seed World Group. I am excited to have you guys join us today on our first ever episode of Seed Speaks. Today, we're going to talk about talent recruitment in agriculture. And I know right now, talent recruitment and finding labor is one of the biggest challenges that I hear about from C-suite executives down to people who are trying to find seasonal labor to pick vegetables. It is a tough world out there to find good connections. So joining me today, I have two great ag recruiters who are going to talk about what they do to find those good qualified candidates. So I'll have actually Jordan Moss. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you're at and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely, Sonja. Thanks a lot for inviting me on today. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Jordan Moss, and I own a boutique recruiting firm called Financial Exchange Group. I got into agriculture as a commodities trader in Chicago. I worked at the Chicago Board of Trade, where I traded corn futures, which is now the CME. So my introduction into the great world of agriculture came more on the risk management side. Once I learned about the risk side, I started to learn about the fundamental factors that drive the agriculture market, like weather, and I went on crop tours and learned about the soil and the seeds. And when I began my second career, when my first career as a trader, the pit trading, the open outcry that I used to do to trade corn futures went electronic. So my second career for the last 7 or 8 years has been as a recruiter. I really focused on the agriculture world and pretty much diversified in servicing different clients in agriculture. Started out on the risk management side, but got into commercial agriculture, production agriculture, ag tech. So I've developed this nice little niche in this amazing world of agriculture where we help find talent.
Awesome. You're going to be a great resource for us here. And Simon, you are a little bit farther away from me. I'm in Kansas City. Tell us where you're at and more about what you do.
Yeah, so I'm in London. I'm in London, England, and my business I run it's a global firm. So in fact, most of the work I do is actually in the US. But my business is all around connecting talent for a healthier world. So for me, I very much connect with the kind of mission of agriculture now, as we look to feed the world's growing population, which is another 2 billion people by 2050. And really over the last 10 years, we've seen, well, I'd say the last 5-6 years, we've really seen a slew of companies which have been created to solve problems in the agricultural value chain, as it were. And this is all through sustainability and through using kind of less resources to help achieve those goals. And my job, I work with early stage venture-backed companies which are disrupting agriculture and innovation people, and I connect talent pools and help companies scale and grow, really recruiting at the leadership level. So love the industry. It's great to connect with the industry, and super glad you invited me on today. So thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, I'm so excited for today's episode. You both mentioned the world of ag tech and sustainability. And, if we think back 20 years ago, I don't think the conversation would have been the same as what we're having today. The world of agriculture has just exploded. The opportunities have exploded. But that also means, when opportunities are there, we also have challenges. So Jordan, what are kind of the biggest challenges you're hearing from your clients in trying to find skilled and talented employees?
Yeah, absolutely. The commodities market and the agriculture market to me has always been demand driven. And on certain years in the market, there's less of a demand. Other years, there's more of a demand, and all these factors kind of play into it. Lately, we've had a real, I feel like, candidate driven market. So it's a challenge to find those individuals to source. I think a lot has to do. Of course, we had COVID and people kind of figured out how to make it through COVID. Agriculture being an essential market, that companies that I recruit for, they kept on pumping. And then the end of the year hit, there was really no lull in hiring. So the beginning of the year came, and people are hiring. The commodity prices around agriculture and worldwide have really risen. So I think what that does is it gets people busy. People are out. People are planting when the weather's good, so they get their seeds in the ground and make sure they get the right amount of money, and they can profit on where commodity prices are. So as a recruiter, it gets to be kind of challenging to get people on the horn and get them on the phone. So the challenge over the last few months, I think, has been people have been busy in this industry. People are hiring. People have been busy. Commodity prices have really caused people to be really focused on their job, which is great for agriculture. My job is really pinning people down, or my challenge is really pinning people down and having them, think outside of what they're doing now. It's a candidate-driven market. Like you said before, Simon, I mean, with the different factors, the long-term look for agriculture, I mean, we're always going to need people. And with, an additional 2 billion people and all the urbanization, I mean, this is a growing industry where we're going to constantly be busy. But short and midterm, I mean, this is it's a busy market with commodity prices rising. So, actually getting people to sit down and take a look outside of what they're doing right now instead of focusing on what they're doing day to day to make money has been a challenge in the recruiting industry. Whereas opposed to the last 1 or 2 years, people had a little more time. People are a little less busy. People were, looking around a little bit more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a reporter who tries to get people on the phone for interviews, for stories, I can totally relate to that. Getting someone to sit down during the busy season is tough. And Simon, I know you work with a really specialized group of people. You mentioned plant breeders and finding some of those, what we'd call those C-suite executives and things like that, people who are super specialized. What makes that so hard to find? What makes those special people just almost, impossible sometimes?
Well, you know what's funny? Well, I'm always advising clients, actually, when you're bringing executives on, the tendency is to try and go really narrow and deep with a level of specialism. And I normally recommend try and go a little bit broader and try and hire a little bit more on the kind of competence. But I think one of the skill sets that we get a lot of demand for is what we call business development capability. So an organization may have a really interesting piece of technology or a toolkit, for instance, and it's about bringing an individual on that can then position that, strike deals with the industry. And the profile is different from a traditional sales individual, for instance. It's an individual that can really, we call it create dreams almost, or sell dreams and sell visions. And we've always struggled to find the breadth and depth of competence around that business development kind of expertise, as it were. That's quite a tough role to find for at this stage.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So for you guys, when it comes to hiring those right people, you mentioned having diverse backgrounds and having an openness to, maybe they're not this pinpointed, like, oh, they're perfect, they're in this little box we're trying to put them in. Opening it up a little bit. So Simon, I'll have you address this first, then Jordan, I'll get your perspective. How critical is it to have an ag background specifically? And is there a difference in hiring an executive versus hiring, say, a salesperson or someone in something as specific as plant breeding?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think from an executive viewpoint, I think if it's, and we've looked at individuals that have gone into ag that don't necessarily have an ag background, in fairness. I think other backgrounds might relate to industrial or food backgrounds, for instance. So that's one thing to say. So I think broader talent pools, basically, out of just straightforward ag. And one of the things around that is you can find individuals that maybe they've got a different set of experiences that they can bring in as well. That's one thing that we found. And also on the technology and scientific side as well. there are best practice, there are best practices from other industries as well. So whether it be food or synthetic biology or something along those lines, we do see a number of individuals coming into the industry that haven't got experience before. And there's a lot of people that want to come into the industry now. They want to make that impact, actually. So I think there's demand for people that want to join the ag industry now that haven't perhaps considered opportunities within it.
Mm-hmm. And Jordan, would you say that as we've seen ag expand and get more involved in things like technology and apps, or into some of this biologicals and biochemistries and things like that, are we seeing more interest from other tech industries or pharmaceutical or non-ag backgrounds because of how easily it does relate to what they've been doing in other industries for so long?
Yeah, absolutely. And to relate, to what Simon said, I think when it comes to food and when it comes to science, I think people from other backgrounds and maybe, the pharma world or, similar worlds make a good fit into agriculture. But I've noticed that when you start working with, different parts of the supply chain, like the farmers or the ag retailers, at the end of the day, nothing beats an ag background. I've seen companies that, try to hire outside of people with an ag background, but, there's a special character and there's a special passion in people that grow up on a farm or get into agriculture. I don't know if it's altruism or what it is, but it's more, it's more about really being helpful and being able to relate to producers. And I found that to be vital in many parts of the company. And, if you're not going to be senior level managers, if you didn't grow up in agriculture, I found it to be effective to surround yourself with people that have grown up around the farm. It's not a must have, but every time I have candidates and there's a person that grew up on the farm or a person that didn't grow up on the farm, the person that grew up on the farm around agriculture typically is a good fit for the ag world, right? And there's a lot of these people. There's no shortage of people that grew up on a farm or went to school and got interested in agriculture and then studied that and now want to make a profession out of it. There's a lot of people out there for us to choose from, if we can get them on the horn. But I've always found that an ag background, for the business development roles is pretty vital. When you get into the world of technology and you have people that are starting to build applications and, maybe software engineers or product people, then I think you might be able to diversify a little bit. But I found in this industry, the people that grew up around agriculture, they're always the ones that are effective when it comes to, selling the idea or, making people familiar with the disruption. Very, very helpful.
Absolutely, that makes sense.
The other thing that you said, it was interesting about placing senior levels and executives. I've had a lot of luck in the agriculture industry getting to talk to high-level people just by reaching out to them. I think it's part of the character or part of, what they see as a very, innovative and growing industry where a lot of different input is important. But people are willing to have conversations, and senior level people are willing to have conversations in agriculture, which is great. And I think that's why there's a lot of innovation. And I think that's why there's a lot of investment going into agriculture over the last 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Jordan, what you just said there, we actually had a question come in that I think we can relate to that. The idea of, you picked up the phone and you were calling people and that's how you're getting in contact. I think finding the right people and finding opportunities is something that's a challenge. And we had a viewer ask, if I'm someone trying to find work, how do I, as the candidate, reach out and find people through the right channels and apply for those jobs that match my skill set, or maybe they're a bit of a stretch. How can I appropriately stretch myself too? So I'll start with you, Simon. What are the best channels for job candidates? And then therefore the hiring managers, where should they be looking for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I always advise if individual candidates looking for jobs, I think LinkedIn is a fantastic way to build your network and jobs being advertised on there, but you know, contacts out within organizations. And actually, I hear a lot of frustrations from candidates that make applications and never hear anything back. And I know what that feels like. So I would always try and encourage, I call it like a reverse engineering approach to search. If you're interested in the ag industry, do your research. Find out which organizations that you want to apply to. Research them. And then use LinkedIn to build networks with the people that work there. Try and engage, reach out and have a discussion, dialogue. Learn a little bit more. And look to cultivate a personal kind of network approach, rather than just making applications where sometimes it's really tough, not getting any feedback. So I would recommend that approach, and likewise for organizations looking to recruit. I think the challenge is sometimes they put a job ad out on LinkedIn, and that can work. I think with it's a really specialized area, it tends not to. So I would recommend using recruitment firms to or getting in contact with specialists, that can advise and guide you, and that can actually go out to the marketplace and have a network already that they can bring you individuals that may, do the work for you, as it were. Mm-hmm. So I would say don't be afraid to use partners if it's important. You should go down that road.
Absolutely. And Jordan, to build on that, we talked about for candidates, it's important to do your research on the ag companies and things like that. As a recruiter, or as if we're a company trying to hire someone, how much research are you doing on your candidates? And is it every candidate that comes through, or are you kind of screening to save yourself some time?
So I think research is very important. In regards to a recruiter, and I definitely echo Simon's sentiment. If you want to start a search, find a great recruiter. Even if you're not searching, passive candidates are typically the best candidates. So when you connect with a guy like Simon, or someone like myself, even if you're not looking right now, we then get you into our database. We could then share our network with you. So using a good recruiter is very important. And when it comes to, I think being a good recruiter is understanding the company that you're trying to search for, what's important to them, what their culture is like. So research is big, especially in agriculture. People are in ag and food. People are very passionate about what they do. They're very connected to an organization that they're going to go to. Dollar signs and a place to put your shingle is not the most important thing to them. What the product does to make growers more efficient, or how this is going to help contribute to bigger yields. Like, these are vital aspects of a job search for people. So you need, as a recruiter, you really need to understand the value proposition of the company. And then, you need to make sure that matches up to the candidates that you have, because that drives a lot of the conversations, even with passive candidates in agriculture. If they are solving a problem, or they're doing something that is going to help the ag world, like, this is important to them in a career. And that comes from research and really understanding the company, the culture, the market, what problem they're trying to solve.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I think that brings up a question and a conversation that Simon and I actually had prior to our call. And that is the idea that when you think about, especially the millennial generation and Gen Z, this up and coming generation, they're not just looking for titles anymore, are they, Simon? They're wanting their work to have meaning. So can you maybe speak to the value of not just giving someone a good salary, which is important, not just giving them an important sounding title, but giving them value in their work in terms of the purpose.
I think this has probably been one of the biggest trends that that I've seen in the last few years, which has actually been escalated a lot more after COVID, actually.
Yeah,
and the amount of people, that took the opportunity during COVID to ask that question when you're sitting at home. What's it all about?
What are we doing with our life?
Man, that's that was the question, right? And I think it brought up a lot of evaluation, and that opportunity to break from the norm, and so that has really been escalated. And we've seen, it's great to work with companies in this space that are defined by a mission. They're created with what I call this heart and purpose to solve a problem. And they encourage and they enroll other people on this. And it's very infectious. It's like being part of a group that are just working together. Mm-hmm. And I've seen the energy that kind of creates. And being part of that purpose, being part of that solution, it gives people this sense of achievement, this sense of being part of a solution, this sense of contribution. And we're certainly seeing it a lot more with the millennial kind of age groups, as it were. But even people in my generation, they are questioning. They are getting 45, 50-year-old people. I've been successful. I've done this. I don't need to do this now. Now I can choose to do what I want to do. And what do I choose to do? I want to create impact. And it's a transformative trend that I feel the ag industry can take advantage of, actually, mm-hmm. to attract talent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, we are unfortunately kind of at our time limit today, but I tell you what, I have more questions for you. I have questions for you about how to make the offer, questions about how do we include more diversity in our hiring process? And, when do we loop in a college student and have them be a lifelong person that we have within our company? So what I'm trying to say is this is not the last time we're going to talk. This is not the last time we're going to talk about talent recruitment by any means. I do appreciate, guys. I think I got just a few big key learning points that I think I'll share back. And one of those is, it sounds like, we don't just lead with salary anymore. We don't just lead with job title. We lead with purpose and what our company's purpose is, what the purpose is that the position can fulfill. And I think that's a really, really exciting point to make. Another one is, research is paramount to finding good candidates, and research is paramount if you are the candidate to make sure that your values align with the candidate and you as a candidate align with the company. And it's going to be something fulfilling to you. And finally, it's really interesting to hear about ag backgrounds and their necessity versus non-necessity in this field now. It sounds like it's always good to have familiarity with ag and the stronger connection you can make to the farm gate and to understanding what the farmer's need is or what the company's need is and how it relates to feeding the world and keeping farmers successful. That's a really powerful draw and it's really important. But at the same time, our industry has expanded so much that it's not a break. It won't break the rules if we hire someone outside of ag from pharmaceutical or from industry or from technology. So we're opening up opportunities that maybe weren't there before. So really exciting stuff to learn from you guys. And I appreciate your time so much. I appreciate your insights. And thank you to everyone who joined us watching today. I hope that you will tune in. Next week, we have Alex Martin, who is the editor of Seed World. She's going to be talking to several experts about, you found this talent, you got this person hired. How do we create company buy-in so that they're excited about your purpose? And how do we retain them so that they stay with us for the long haul? So I hope you'll tune in next week. It is noon Central Time on Seed World's Facebook page. We're also going to broadcast this across all of our other Seed channels. I'll have an article up that'll go up on Seed World and the other websites as well. So stay tuned for more information and get excited for next week. So thank you again, Jordan. Thank you again, Simon. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.